Let's head to the courts now, and the trial within a trial in the Senzo Meyiwa murder case continues in Pretoria today. And it's now an audio recording of this alleged confession that's causing major headaches. The defence is questioning the authenticity of that recording made by the magistrate in June 2020. That magistrate, of course, is currently on the stand. Suspect number one, Bongani Ntanzi, made that confession, but his legal team says it was made under duress. The audio recording was made by the magistrate who was asked to witness the confession. Football star, of course, Senzo Meyiwa, killed in October 2014. 5 men are accused of orchestrating the home invasion that led to his death. Our reporter Manqoba Mchunu joins us from the High Court now. Manqoba, thanks so much for joining us. So let's talk a little bit about this audio recording, because the state originally wasn't wanting to use it. Now they're saying, yes, we'd like to use it. Yesterday, the defence teams got to listen to this 3-hour recording. Tell us where we've come to, because it seems that this trial within a trial may take a lot longer than originally anticipated.
Well, certainly, Sally, and that audio recording, of course, expected to take centre stage as the proceedings continue this morning, with the defence now challenging the authenticity and the veracity of those audio recordings. How we got here, Sally, recall that it was during the evidence-in-chief of Magistrate Vivian Cornier, who is the state's third witness in this trial within a trial, and what she had testified about here in court is around a confession that was made by accused number 2, Bongani Ntanzi, back in June of 2020. She was the magistrate that had taken down that particular confession, and she also told the court of the pro forma document, which is basically a document that lists the rights of the accused, more like a checklist that is done before a confession is taken, and how she then completed that particular checklist before taking that confession. And of course, she then made mention of this particular recording, which we came to know as her evidence-in-chief had started in court. The state saying that they also were made aware of this particular recording on that particular day. It was then furnished to the defence, which had then requested time to then listen to this particular recording. But initially, Sally, the state had indicated that they do not plan to use this recording. They were not going to rely on it as evidence in this trial within a trial. But after having listened to it, the state then making a U-turn yesterday, saying that they've now listened to this particular recording, and they've now noticed that there were certain elements or information that had been missing from the pro forma document, or that was not there in the pro forma document, but that appeared to have been on that particular audio recording, and that made an application for the court to admit this particular recording as evidence in court. But perhaps let's take a listen to the arguments that were made by the state when they presented this in court.
The state initially indicated that it will not use the recording, my lord. Yes. But yesterday we all had the opportunity to listen to the recording. And my lord, having listened to the recording, there are certain aspects that are not contained in Exhibit JJ, which appear in the recording, which in our submission are important to determine whether the statement in question was made voluntarily.
All right, so what's going to happen today? I mean, bearing in mind we've only been dealing in this trial within a trial of one of the alleged confessions. It was meant to be wrapped up this week. The defence is really not happy. What's going to happen likely with the defence today?
Well, so Sally, the defence had time to actually listen to this recording. In fact, they'd requested the court to allow them time to be able to listen to this audio recording together with their clients, those are being the accused, so that they would be able to then consult on this particular audio recording. And subsequent to that, the defence rather, then indicated, Sally, that they'll then want to challenge this particular audio recording. They believe that it should not be admitted as evidence in court, and they are going to be giving their arguments this morning, Sally, as to why they believe so. So we're expecting them, of course, to argue on the basis of the lawfulness of that audio recording and the constitutionality of it all, which, of course, will come to be one of the arguments that we're expecting from the defense this morning. But they were certainly not happy with the state making that particular application. But also important to note, Sally, is that the court has also indicated that that particular recording, should now be played and listened to by the court, since it has now been made aware that such a recording does exist. So we're also expecting possibly to hear the contents of that particular recording. But as far as that pro forma document or the checklist that was done before that confession is concerned, so that possibly could be played in court today, but the arguments is what we're expecting. But I want you to just get a glimpse, Sally, of what the defense had to say yesterday when they argued against this particular audio recording.
Actually submit and request the Honourable Court to suspend the submission made at the moment for the defense to continue the cross-examination and make proper preparation in response towards the submission made by the state, my lord.
My client has never listened to this video recording. I have not been given instructions regarding that, because I was under the impression that the state was not going to use that information. Okay. As a result, my lord, I will ask again, as I've asked yesterday, that will be given an opportunity, because if the state is allowed to proceed at this moment, my lord, that will amount to an ambush on the part of accused number 5.
It's so interesting how accused number 5, who didn't make any confession, my understanding is accused numbers 1 and 2, who apparently made confessions, but the lawyer for accused number 5 also weighing in, saying we can't be ambushed like this. And of course this all revolves around Vivian Cronje, the magistrate who was present for Bongani and Tanzi, accused number 2, what he said in this apparent confession. Do we know when we're going to get to the other confession? I think that's accused number 1's confession, and how long this is all likely to take?
Well, so we've heard arguments in court around the confession that was made by accused number 1. We recall that there are 2 police officers that have taken the stand just prior to Magistrate Cronje, who is the 3rd witness on this particular trial within a trial. And we heard from Colonel Mboto, who testified about the process that he had followed when he took a confession from accused number 1, Bongani Tanzi. This was also done back in 2020 on the 30th of May, when he had been arrested, and we understand that this was just hours after he had been arrested. And of course his claim is that he had been assaulted and he had been coerced into making that particular statement. But we heard from Colonel Mboto saying that when he arrived, accused number 1, that is, to make that particular confession, he had voluntarily and freely made that particular confession, and that he had in fact even waived his right to have a legal representation being present at that particular confession. So we have heard aspects as far as the process that was followed to take down this particular confession. But when it comes to the actual confession itself, I think, Sally, that is something that will be determined when this trial within a trial is concluded. You recall that what this trial within a trial is looking into is to whether or not those confessions were lawfully extracted, and if at all they can then be used and admitted as evidence in court. And I think at this particular stage we have not heard those confessions, but what we're hearing is evidence around how those confessions were then obtained and collected by the police, and whether those processes were lawful. And this is what we're expecting to also hear, Sally, if at all they're going to play that particular audio recording in court, the process prior to the statement. And of course the court is still going to rule on the admissibility of the statement, And if at all that particular admissibility is granted, we'll get to hear exactly the contents of those statements and what it is that they say and, who they implicate as far as this matter is concerned.
Yeah, and of course it's probably in the defence's interest to really make sure that this matter is not allowed as part of the main trial. So that trial within a trial continues today. Thank you so much for bringing us up to speed, our reporter Manqoba Mchunu.